Hi guys, welcome back, and in today's video we're going to be looking at the first watches that I ever owned and that started me off in watch collecting as a hobby. Now, one of the best reasons for this is that I would still highly recommend both of these watches to anyone starting a collection today. Another is that there are multiple versions of each of these watches available, with different color schemes and materials, so you do have even more options than what you see here if you want a Citizen watch with one of these movements in it but you don't like these particular aesthetics. So I've mentioned before that my three favorite watch brands overall are Citizen, Seiko and Omega, and there are many ways in which Citizen might be my single favorite watch brand. Now, I'll be the first to admit that there's no argument to be made that Citizen is as significant a brand as Seiko or Omega. My love of Citizen is mainly for personal, subjective reasons. But there are more than enough objective, quality-related reasons to love this brand as well. So no one has to love Citizen as much as I do, but I do believe the brand deserves respect from everyone, and the two watches that we're looking at today are perfect examples of the various reasons for this. So the two watches we have here have certain things in common, and they also have some significant differences, which is one of the reasons why I'd recommend them as a two-watch collection, and that's regardless of whether you own only these two watches. Some people don't want to own a lot of watches but still want to collect, or whether they complement each other within a larger collection. So these could be a little 2-watch collection in a 10-watch collection, 100-watch collection, whatever you want to do. So I bought these watches at the same time in a watch shop in my hometown. I'd noticed the one with the black dial in the shop window a few times walking past, and at the time, I didn't wear a watch, and I never had. When I went into the shop to buy the one with the black dial that you see here, I noticed the one with the blue dial as well on display, and I decided to just get both of them. At the time, I didn't know anything about watches, and part of my personal connection to these watches and the reasons why they're still the favourites in my collection is the fact that if there's one watch collecting decision that I've made over the years that I'm proud of, it's recognizing the value of these watches before I knew anything about watches. I kind of like knowing that it never occurred to me to buy or wear a watch, particularly when I walked past shop windows and saw overpriced low quality fashion watches or even unremarkable watches from real watch companies like Seiko or Citizen, but that I was instantly attracted to these watches and recognize the value in them. Now, the one with the black dial that you see here uses the E650 movement. It's water resistant to 200 meters, has a tachymeter scale on the bezel, and it's a perpetual calendar watch, meaning that not only do you get day and date complications, but the watch also automatically adjusts to be correct by every aspect of the calendar. So you never have to adjust the date function to account for a shorter or longer month in the way that you would have to do with more simple watches, regardless of whether those were mechanical or quartz-based. Now, this perpetual calendar function of the watch is one of the clearest aspects of the incredible value of the watch, and it's also one of the best arguments for including non-mechanical watches in general in your collection, because a mechanical perpetual calendar would set you back thousands or tens of thousands rather than the few £100s that a watch like this would cost you. So, like the other Citizen that I have here, this watch uses a special type of quartz movement from Citizen called EcoDrive, which you've probably heard of, but if you haven't, it's powered by light, and that's not merely solar light, it's not merely a solar-powered watch. Any light can be used to charge the watch. So if you particularly care about the technical achievements and innovations of a brand, then EcoDrive should also make any Citizen watch more valuable to you, because it is really Citizen's main technical contribution to watchmaking. As you can see, this model of this watch comes on a strap rather than on a bracelet, And the strap is the best quality strap I've seen on a watch at this price point, or even at twice the price, frankly. The fact that it's very thickly padded has aesthetic benefits as well, because as you can see, the lugs have squarish ends on this watch, and a thinner strap wouldn't really fit that in terms of the aesthetics, but the thickness of this strap means that there's a continuous flow from the lugs into the strap when you look at it from the side. Where the rest of the aesthetics of the watch are concerned, everything about this watch is perfect for me, and I'll point out some of the things that I like most about it. But it's worth noting that there's one feature which won't be to everyone's taste, which is the tachymeter scale on the bezel. Now, anyone would be entitled to feel that this, because it's a clear sports feature, is out of place on a watch that's very elegant despite its size and its modern styling. Now, the overall style and design of this watch come together in a way that you rarely see. The normal thing to do at this point in a review like this would be to talk about iconic Swiss watches that this piece carries some of the flavour of, but I'm not going to do that because I really do think that this watch stands on its own, and I think it would be a distraction. The thing I like most about the general aesthetic is that, although the dial is very complicated, the first thing that strikes you on looking at the watch is a sense of clean, precise beauty. Although this is a matter of style and design, it wouldn't be possible without each individual feature of the watch being perfectly chosen for aesthetic effect, and without the build quality and the fit and finish being impeccable. Some things I particularly like are that, although the indices and the hour and minute hands are very simple, they're faceted in a way that catches the light beautifully from almost any angle. And this really has to be seen in person. Some of it comes across on camera and some not. The more ornate design of the second hand doesn't disturb this overall clean effect, but it does add another touch of elegance, so I like that too. One great thing about this watch that probably does come across on camera in terms of the aesthetics is that there's a sense of depth in the dial that I can only really describe as architectural. Hopefully you can see this as I move the watch around. Moving on to the Citizen with the blue dial, this one uses the E870 movement, and perhaps the first thing you'll notice about this watch is how scratched both the bezel and the crystal are. That's because I've worn this watch more than any other in my collection for years, and there are reasons for that. The most important of these is that it's easily the most adaptable watch in my collection, and if you were to have only one watch at or near this price point, and if you can live without that watch being mechanical, I think this should be the watch. The bracelet and the solid construction make this watch perfectly suitable as a daily wear watch or a sport watch, and it's water resistant to 100 meters, which is all most people will ever need. The bracelet is the only thing about the watch that technically makes it inappropriate as a dress watch, but to be honest, no one really cares about that anymore anyway, and you could easily swap the bracelet for a strap as required, so it's not an issue. So in terms of technical differences between these two watches, although they are both eco-drives with perpetual calendars, this watch uses a mineral crystal rather than the anti-reflective sapphire in the other, although it is very clear from any angle. It's a very good mineral crystal. The watch also doesn't feature the radio-controlled atomic timekeeping found in the other watch, and one effect of this is that you will have to manually adjust the watch for daylight saving time. Unlike the other, this watch can't claim to be uncluttered, but I don't like it any less because of that. It's cluttered in a beautiful and elegant way. I particularly like the Roman numerals and the calendar on the chapter ring. Those are two of my favourite features. Now, although like the other Citizen that I have here, I do love everything about this watch, it actually isn't hard to pick out a most notable feature, and that's the colour of the dial. Blue's my favourite dial colour in watches anyway, but I've never seen a blue dial like this. It's so dark as to appear black in many lights, but it does also tint to a surprisingly light, silvery grey blue in some lights, and sometimes it also appears faintly purple. In terms of negatives, there's really only one practical disadvantage of this piece that I can think of, which is the design of the crown. The ring with the raised pattern on it around the crown works aesthetically, and it does also make it very easy to pull out and operate. But for the same reasons, it can become caught on things in passing, and when I first started wearing the watch, the crown was accidentally pulled out in this way several times. Now, it's the kind of thing that works itself out as you wear the watch and get into the habit of being careful with it. But having said that, for me, it was an issue to start with. That's the only thing I can think of to say about this watch that's in any way negative. So I said earlier that these watches together make an ideal two-watch collection, either on their own or as part of a larger collection. Some of the objective reasons for this are that with only these two watches, you still get a larger, more modern watch and a smaller, more dressy watch. You still have a watch with a black dial and a watch with a coloured but dark enough to still be conservative dial. You get a watch with a strap and a watch with a bracelet, of course, and with both of these watches you have the accuracy of quartz, but in a more horologically interesting form with the eco-drive movements. So really the only aspect that's missing there is the mechanical aspect, and if you can live without that, you're pretty much covered in every way, just with these two watches. So although there are all of these objective reasons to love both of these watches, the personal, subjective factors are always the most important. So I'll leave you with a shot of these watches side by side again, and let me know what you think about them in the comments. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.